pandemic will be remembered as one of the most disruptive and demanding moments of our lives. However, the shutdown of physical stores and businesses has opened up new opportunities for digital services, mobile apps, and multi-channel marketplaces. All of these delivering value to build trust as people search for certainty in uncertain times. It's also a trend benefiting a new kind of approach to engagement and retention marketing, one that combines the science of data with the art of empathy. I'm your host for today's panel, Peggy Ann Saltz, mobile analyst, tech consultant, senior Forbes writer, and founder of Mobile Groove. And today we have a panel of experts who will share how they have harnessed both of these trends to evolve, even excel in our times of digital transformation, and they will reveal how they have come to pursue growth strategies and product innovation in a world where consumers crave experience and value convenience more than ever before. I'm excited to welcome our guests. We kick off here Ananya Roy Sen, head of marketing at Namshi, an e-commerce platform headquartered in Dubai. Welcome, Ananya. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
So Namshi is a fashion e-commerce platform headquartered in Dubai, and we service all the 6 GCC countries, which include Saudi, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and UAE. And we plan to expand into new countries as well, keeping in mind the evolving ecosystem.
But that's exciting. You've made some strides into new business areas, as you said, and probably new acquisition and retention strategies that you're going to share with us. So we're happy to have you here. And we also welcome Tim Calise, COO of Ninja. Ninja, as we'll hear, is an all-in-one communication platform tailored to the needs of freelancers and free agents globally. It's exciting. It's a fast-growing business. Tim, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do there.
Well, thank you. So at Ninja, we believe in a solutions-based approach, especially for freelancers. So as the world does business cross-border much more frequently than it has in the past, and the rise of freelancers or independent knowledge workers worldwide, Ninja provides a platform for them to collaborate, communicate, and get paid. So I'm very excited to be on the panel today.
I'd like to just start by exploring with each of you your biggest change and how you have adapted, even pivoted your marketing and messaging to understand and engage your customers. So I'll start with you, Ananya. E-commerce exploded. What can I say? Namshi stocks top shops worldwide. What impact, what outcomes did you see?
So it started off with us trying to understand what was happening, understanding the evolving consumer needs, and then adapting our marketing communications around the consumer needs. Here, there was no guidebook for us, right? There was nothing to refer to. So we got into data crunching mode to understand how the consumer needs evolved over a period of time. So that created a big contrast for us, like understanding where do we draw the line between personalization. And there we need to be very careful because you can't be creepy and become too personalized and scare your consumers away. At the same time, you can't be just sending out promotional communications to your customers, right? Should we just keep selling what we keep selling? Or should we just engage with them to understand if they're having a bad day or a good day? So that is something that really needed some thinking. And probably we still don't have the right answer. So we continue to learn.
As you said, it's that balance. It's a data-driven balance between personalization and not too much personalization. Is there some sort of rule or process that you followed?
It started off by understanding how can we enrich our CRM platform to send back the right signals. Because if I were to customize my communications, I had to understand my consumer better. So it needed us to go a step further, understand at least the last 6 to 7 transactions to understand how was the consumer shopping behavior evolving to be able to upsell and cross-sell accordingly. At the start of the pandemic, people were not price sensitive, right? Everybody was trying to understand what was happening. So we did struggle there. And even now, I think there are days when we keep thinking, should we actually send out a communication about a sale? Or should we just talk about what we have new to offer?
That is exciting because what we're hearing here is that it's not static, it's always evolving. And Tim, how did you change and adapt your marketing and messaging to get the most value out of this massive shift?
The short answer is everything, right? So at Ninja, we started in 2017 with the premise that we saw the kind of the budding, the nucleus of this concept of the shift from in office full-time work to project-based, remote, global kind of freelancer work. And so from there, we set out to provide a better offering for those folks that are looking to either have a second income or are looking to become providers to the marketplace on an independent basis. The very quick acceleration to work from home really required a very quick kind of pivot, if you will, to understanding very clearly what the user behaviors were around this quote unquote new normal. So as an example, we saw a tremendous uptick in our translation and transcription, real-time and inline translation and transcription functionality. And I think that was a view into how folks and how companies were responding, but also how project-based workers were responding. They were going global very based on demand. They were looking to kind of build a business for themselves based upon some of the trends that were in the marketplace. So we had to kind of three levels. There was the acquisition side, there was the user experience and customer success, and then the development experience as well. And all three informed each other.
So you were experimenting with product and with campaigns. We'll get to that in a moment. But more interestingly for both of you, your customers were also experimenting, right? They were trying new brands, trying new apps, breaking old habits. I'd like to ask you, Ananya, how did you leverage data to gain or rebuild customer loyalty with all of that change?
It started with us looking at very basic metrics. So ours is an app-first business. So we started looking at metrics like, did the time spent on the app increase over a period of time? Were users browsing more products? And the biggest pain point was, if time spent on the app had gone up, why weren't the purchases happening? So that took us to the second problem. Were we able to problem solve for our users? So as the pandemic progressed, the users became more price sensitive. So at the start of the pandemic, like you correctly said, there is no guidebook for this crisis, right? So we didn't really realize that people were becoming price sensitive, and we didn't really have to change our pricing strategy. So with time, we realized that if all the other metrics are looking healthier versus previous years, how do we improve our conversion rates? And then we realized people were becoming price sensitive, and fashion is probably not a necessity like grocery, right? You don't need to buy a t-shirt every single day. But what happened with a period of time is the people spending money on the same products, they wanted more value for the money they were spending on fashion. So that led to us understanding, how do we promote our wider inventory? So we had been focusing on our top brands for our marketing communication. So now the strategy changed to talk about other brands that were probably more economical for our users without compromising on the quality of products. So that has been a constant learning. And because we cater to multiple markets, each of our markets responded differently. So we also notice how the brands that sell in these countries have evolved. And that means the entire marketing communication changes for all these countries. So how we push our communications to our audiences in Saudi is very different to how we do it in the UAE. Every single thing has to be customized now, like it's not one size fits all. So it's just about how we become smarter. So there we realize that, again, going back to CRM, we really need to enrich the signals that we pass back into the platform so that we continue to stay relevant to our consumers in each of these markets. And hence, the way we sell has also changed for these markets.
So you're talking about how customers' habits changed. Of course, Ananya, so did their profiles. And I'd like to come to you, Tim, because the idea of encouraging engagement starts with understanding what an engaged user looks like. And that, of course, has changed. How do you determine your high value or highly loyal or highly engaged user?
Peggy, to your point, what behaviors do we look at? We look at the number of meetings, the number of messages that are flowing back and forth between existing users, the growth. One of the biggest things is the network effect that we see. So, how quickly is the network around a contact or around a user expanding? Because as you start to utilize the platform, it grows naturally. And so we were able to really understand very quickly what a kind of a core user looked like. And then within the different personas, what what functionalities do they really leverage? So somebody might be connected with 10 people or 20 people, and that could be in a large file sharing initiative. It could be in a video conference initiative, and so that specifically was where our data was very informative. The second issue, which I think was very, very important, was especially for freelancers. Prior to the pandemic, most freelancers were kind of cobbling together a bunch of different platforms. But as the work kind of profile changed very quickly, it exposed an unknown, or I don't think an appreciated problem, which was, as an independent knowledge worker, how do I build my own persona within the context of the marketplace? So if I have 6 different companies that I work with, each of them might have a video conferencing solution. Each one might have a file sharing solution. The sheer logistics of it became an issue. And so that was one thing that was very informative for us. And that's where our users actually led some of that prioritization within the development.
You need to serve the needs of your existing users. You need to also acquire new users, and it adds a layer of complexity there. And it also means that you have different app features that you want to get out to different segments, and you want them to understand all of that. How do you drive awareness and usage of all your app features across your customer base, giving everyone what they need?
Yeah, we took the approach of really concentrating on user education. Because as we're all well aware, trying to drink from the fire hose as a new user is a short-sighted and underwhelming initial experience. So, as this is where the marketing kind of transitioned into the customer experience. So we were able to really understand, this new user came off of a campaign focused on inline transcription and translation. So that means that something in that messaging resonated with them. So in addition to growing the network, the number of contacts or connections that you have on the platform, we can prioritize that user education to say, let's make sure you understand how this one piece worked. And then we took that and were able to then build upon it and saying, for folks that were power users of this feature, based on longevity of usage, what other things did they typically find valuable? And so you kind of get into this education, almost knowledge tree, if you will, of kind of providing those breadcrumbs and expanding the usefulness of the platform, but in a kind of personalized or customized way.
That's interesting because commerce sounds like it's dead simple, but it's not. You were talking about different use cases, different behaviors. How did you adapt lifecycle marketing to meet these individual diverse needs? But at the same time, some people might have been trying out online commerce, mobile commerce, app commerce for the first time ever.
I think we had to take a step back and understand what would be our acquisition strategy and what would be our retention strategy. And they kind of walk hand in hand, but retention becomes the tricky part because here we got into understanding what is it that would lead to the second purchase. How much of time is needed? Did that change the time needed to make the second purchase? So here we had to really take a step back and understand how do we send across the right communication to the consumers without being super pushy and get them to make the second transaction. And that is indeed difficult because if the first experience is bad, how do you get the user back on your platform? So while it took a lot of product developments as well, from an operational standpoint, new things came into existence, right? We also came up with other value propositions like buy now and pay later, because it's fashion, right? So we have introduced all these additional ways in which we can market. Like typically, What organically happened was people moving from cash on delivery to online payments. That is something that happened organically. So those are a number of initiatives that was taken across the organization to be able to keep ourselves relevant to our target consumers.
That's interesting. Everyone had to add value at this time because it was a very noisy time and consumers were very uncertain. And I mentioned their behaviors changed dramatically. How did that impact your marketing and your even your tone of marketing for that matter?
I mean, the communications had to be tailored a lot more. And we continuously run A/B tests to understand what kind of communications leads to more open rates for our CRM communications. That is one of the signals that we use to understand how do we continue to customize our messaging for our consumers. And then again, we run tests for each of the different countries separately, keeping in mind the audiences that we have, because the user behavior is so different across all the different markets. It's been continuously evolving for us. Very simple things like, should I continue to spam them with retargeting ads whenever there is a price drop, or should I stick to CRM communications? Another interesting thing, it could be like right now on my app, I have a back to school campaign which has offers across multiple categories. At the same time, I will also have a user who has a product in the shopping cart which has a 15% discount probably. Which messaging should be prioritized? Should I talk to him about the back to school campaign, or should I just let him know that the Adidas shoe in your cart has a 15% discount? So no clear answer there. We test and we continue to learn.
So I want to switch. I want to zoom out a little bit, look at the future. We've heard about where you have both been, how you have evolved, how you've responded to change, changed your marketing and messaging to be focused on behaviors that you're seeing almost in the moment. I'm hearing a lot of importance here of real-time data to inform powerful segmentation. So this is a lesson. Global events have taught us an important lesson. Ananya, what's the biggest lesson that you have learned, or something you wished you'd known now that you do know now, with regards to how to approach and inform segmentation in a way that resonates with your consumers, respects their privacy, reinforces your own brand equity? What can you share?
I think it's been a long journey about enriching the signals that we pass on to our CRM tools. So back in the days, we didn't really have to think about customizing the communication as much as it's important right now, because we really need to be empathetic. So it's been about us working on our CRM tools to pass on a lot of additional data points to understand a lot more details about the consumer, to be able to work on our retention journeys. And our cross-sell, upsell journeys have also evolved significantly. To be honest, I don't think we paid so much of importance into what should be the communication that should go out when a user has just made the first purchase, and how do we make the persons continue to shop on Namshi. And it's become all the more important now because we are here to solve a problem. Like I said, it could be that the user is spending hours and not making a purchase. Is it a data problem or is it an inventory problem? So it also gets us to work very closely with all the other cross-functional teams in the organization, which was probably taken for granted in the past. And we kind of thought we knew our data very well. I don't think none of us can say that we know our data very well anymore, because the data is so dynamic now that a particular trend doesn't stand true for a very long period of time. So that's been a very important learning. I think we're always on our toes now.
Mm-hmm. So passing more signals, enriching your CRM. What about you, Tim? What is the biggest lesson you've learned, or something that you wish you would have known then that you do know now?
So I think the biggest lesson that we learned was that change is constant. And I think we are building kind of just a mentality of change and adaptation, even more so today than we did before. And just personally, I've always been I started as an analyst in the investment management world. And emotions are fantastic, but data is really the bedrock on which we make decisions. And I think we have prioritized that and allowed that to lead specifically around user behavior, and then being flexible to curating the right experience for each user to the greatest extent possible. Behaviors can change very quickly, and I think the speed in which we need to be prepared to respond to that is critically important.
And you bring up change, and I'm thinking that we talk a lot about the pandemic, but of course, when you talk with marketers, the biggest change they experienced was what we're now calling trying to do marketing in an identity constrained world, is what it's being called now.
Oh, yes.
I'd just like to do a quick round here of this change, as we're talking about change, how you're reacting to it, how you're embracing it, how you're making the most of it. What does this really mean for marketers? Ananya, I'll start with you.
It's weird because yesterday I was looking at the changes as a result of the iOS 14 changes, and we were making decisions on certain marketing platforms. And we were actually discussing what happens because performance marketing is changing drastically. So unless we grow our CRM channels, the world is completely different now. Like, I think the iOS 14 changes happened in April sometime, and the data has evolved drastically. So I think we need to take some of our channels much more seriously now. Like, it could be SEO, it could be CRM, anything organic is much more valuable now, because gone are the times when you can pump in money into performance marketing and expect results to show up. Those days are gone now. And I'm from the time when Google started and Facebook started, and I now see how those platforms have their limitations. So this is the new reality for me, waking up to these challenges and figuring out how do we continue to drive business without having proper access to audience data. I mean, no clear answer. And we just need to get better with how we identify our consumers and be able to service them better. I think that is the biggest learning. And it'll be a journey, I think.
Absolutely. And I love it. The new reality, not just the new normal, the new reality. Tim, how are you handling that new reality?
Oh, I think you're spot on, Ananya. So what we're seeing, and I think you're exactly right. The days of pumping money in and getting direct response, we've kind of moved away from, and so we've been focused again on the kind of the customer experience as it relates to the referral engine or the kind of expansion, the network effect that we're looking to build. And I think the authenticity matters. And I think we went through a time where paid acquisition led, and you can kind of sell a headline. It doesn't work anymore.
So the focus is on engagement, retention. Each of you, a golden rule of engagement. What's your golden rule, Ananya? I'll start with you.
I think there are multiple rules there, and it's difficult to pinpoint one. But I think it's about relevance. It's not about sending 10 push notes and expecting something to hit with the user, but it's about doing it right the first time.
Relevancy. Tim, what's yours?
I think you're spot on. I'm going to build upon that. I mean, we live in a world right now where I want to have what I need effectively when I need it in the way that I need it. And that kind of curated approach, I think, is something we're certainly haven't nailed, but are certainly every day trying to strive to how can we provide that experience where it feels frictionless. We can remove the grit from the process, and to put it kind of almost from an equation perspective, it's the speed to value divided by the amount of grit. So if I can get a piece of value delivered today with no other kind of friction, that's almost like infinity. It's like dividing by zero effectively. So we're trying to understand how we can do that. And it's one of those kind of endless pursuits, but we're very, very excited about being able to be in a position to continue to learn from our users and reflect back to them, what they need when they need it.
Well, Tim, that's a great formula. I encourage you to refine that. Maybe it's a framework for the next CleverTap Quarterly. Who knows? You have something there. Thank you both, Ananya, Tim, for sharing your journey, what you've done, what you've seen, what you've experienced, and also lifting the lid a little bit on all of those very deep business changes and telling us how you have responded and your thinking about the future as well. Thank you so much for sharing, both of you.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation.
Same. Thank you both very, very much. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Tim. And of course, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We learned today about the impact of disruptive change, and we heard about the importance of data, both enriching it and understanding it. So stay tuned now for some news about data integrations to help you do both.